Are you doing well? I want to express my sincere gratitude that you have navigated the waves of life and found your way to this video. Every day, we face countless struggles and worries, don't we? The frustrations of workplace relationships, the minor misunderstandings with loved ones, the vague anxiety about the future, and doubts about our own abilities or worth. Even when we lie down at night and close our eyes, those thoughts race through our minds, as if a heavy stone is pressing down on our hearts. This mental weight, while a testament to our existence, can sometimes feel overwhelming. In particular, the issue of how personal and cultural values of good and evil diverge may be one of the greatest sources of suffering we face today. What one person considers the right course of action, another might see as an unforgivable mistake. Amidst this clash of values, how can we find peace of mind? At the root of this profound suffering, the teachings of Buddhism, expounded by the Buddha over 25 centuries ago, are surprisingly relevant and possess the power to alleviate our personal struggles. These teachings do not demand that we become perfectly virtuous people. Instead, they offer us concrete guidance on how to live within this constant flux of values, and how to set our internal compass to find balance. Come, let us unravel the secret of this power to lighten your burdens. I hope this video helps to ease the weight on your heart, even if just a little. Around 2,500 years ago, in a small, sun-drenched village in ancient India, lived a young man named Aakash. Aakash was kind-hearted, but he possessed an exceptionally strong sense of justice, which caused him much distress. The village was home to diverse groups of people, and their customs, beliefs, and even their understanding of right action varied from one district to the next. In Aakash's household, honesty was considered the highest virtue. Yet in the neighboring settlement, a white lie for the sake of community harmony was sometimes acceptable. He struggled greatly when he saw a merchant slightly misrepresent the quality of his goods in the market. Knowing the merchant's family was ill, should he forgive the merchant, understanding his situation? Or should he uphold the standard of honesty and report him? His heart was constantly battered by a fierce storm, caught between compassion for the plight of others and his own internal standard of good. Unable to bear this mental turmoil any longer, he sought out a wise sage, a profound student of the Buddha's teachings, who lived in a quiet forest on the outskirts of the village. Deep in the forest, in the shade of a banyan tree, Aakash quietly confided in the sage about the suffering caused by the discrepancy of good and evil. His voice trembling, he asked, "Revered sage, what should I believe? And what should I follow? People's values differ too much, and it feels as if every time I choose one good, I end up hurting someone else. My heart finds no rest." The sage gazed at Aakash calmly and offered a gentle smile. The sage replied, "Young man, you suffer because you are trying to find an unchanging and absolute good in the outer world. However, true good is not the norm dictated by society or culture outside of you. It resides in your own inner intention sattva." The sage continued, explaining the core of the Buddha's teachings. dependent origination, pratityasamutpada, impermanence anitya, and compassion Karunā. The concept of dependent origination, in particular that everything is interconnected, deeply resonated with Aakash. The sage explained, whether an action is judged as good or bad is determined by an infinite number of conditions, causes and effects, the circumstance in which the action occurred, the motivation of the person who performed it, and the result it brings about. Therefore, absolute good or evil does not exist anywhere. The sage's words flowed over Aakash's rigid thinking like cool water over a hot stone, gradually softening it. Aakash did not find all the answers immediately after receiving the teachings. He returned to the village and spent several days contemplating the sage's words. He began by quietly observing his own inner tendency to judge and label good and evil. When he saw the merchant again at the market, misrepresenting the quality once more, he suppressed the urge to condemn that would have previously surged up, and instead tried to deeply infer the merchant's motivation. He thought, perhaps he had no other means to treat his family's illness. Could there have been a pure compassion love for his family at the core of his actions? Instead of denouncing the merchant, he asked about his family's condition and offered words of empathy, asking, "Is there anything I can do to help?" This shift in action was born from his internal peace. The stern look disappeared from his face, replaced by the tranquil light of loving kindness. Curiously, the attitudes of the people around him also began to change. Those who had previously feared his overly strict sense of justice started to open up to him, seeking his advice for their troubles. Aakash realized that he had achieved true harmony not by trying to win arguments about differences in values, but through the practice of simply acknowledging the suffering of others and approaching them with a compassionate heart. He understood that true good is not something defined in the head, but the very act of compassion practiced in the heart. As his inner peace spread like ripples through the community, his former struggles quietly dissolved. So, why do we in the modern world suffer so much from the divergence of personal and cultural values of good and evil? Just like Aakash, let's delve deeply into the specific reasons. We live in an age of information overload. Through the internet, a flood of diverse values rushes into our view instantly. A custom revered as tradition in one country is condemned as barbaric by people in another culture. On social media, a single comment is simultaneously met with calls of justice and shouts of evil. Being caught in this crossfire of values significantly destabilizes our mental equilibrium. We constantly seek an unanswerable question: which one is truly right? And as a result, we lose sight of our own standards of judgment. This is precisely a form of what Buddhism calls tanha, craving, or the unsatisfied desire. We crave for absolute rightness, and by struggling to grasp it, we paradoxically generate more suffering. To resolve this modern anxiety, the Buddhist teachings are indispensable. These teachings are precisely the concepts of dependent origination, pratityasamutpada, and emptiness Śūnyatā. that the sage taught. Dependent origination is the truth that all things exist only in relation to other things. Whatever we believe to be good or feel to be evil only appears that way because a specific set of conditions, causes and effects, such as a particular time, culture, and circumstance, has aligned. It does not exist by an absolute standard. And emptiness is the teaching that all phenomena lack an independent, permanent self-nature. In other words, absolute good or absolute evil do not exist as fixed entities in and of themselves. The root of our suffering lies in misunderstanding these labels of good and evil as permanent realities and clinging to them. The Buddhist teachings dispel this misunderstanding and show us that universal compassion that transcends the judgment of good and evil is the only path to free ourselves from suffering. By understanding, when facing a clash of values, that this is merely a temporary perspective born of conditions, we can be released from that mental burden and adopt a more flexible and empathetic course of action. Let us apply the Buddhist teachings to the modern challenge of value conflict. Most of the problems we face stem from the dualistic thinking of, I am right, and the other person is wrong. However, from a Buddhist perspective, both self and other, and the concepts of right and wrong are all empty, and only temporarily appearing that way due to dependent origination. For example, when we encounter someone with a differing opinion on social media, we tend to become emotional and attack them. Applying the Buddhist teaching here involves following these 3 steps. Doubt your rightness, understanding emptiness first. Let go of the attachment that I am absolutely correct. Recognize that my rightness is merely a temporary view, shaped by the conditions of my upbringing and knowledge. This recognition cools down aggressive emotions. Infer the other's conditions, understanding dependent origination next. Infer the conditions, the background, experiences, and suffering that led the other person to hold that opinion. Consider that behind their aggressive words might lie a past traumatic experience or an unmet need for validation. This is not about excusing the person, but an empathetic effort to recognize their suffering. Practice compassion based on this understanding. Choose an action rooted in the compassionate desire to alleviate the other person's suffering. The goal is not to win the argument, but to deepen mutual understanding through dialogue. Sometimes, choosing silence can be the most compassionate action. Here are detailed, specific steps to put this teaching into practice in your daily life. These exercises will train your mind to move from a battleground of values to a place of inner stillness. 1. Meditation on consciously ceasing labeling. Concrete method: sit in a quiet place for 10 minutes daily. Focus on your breath. When a judgmental label such as good, bad, like, or dislike arises in your mind, recognize it as just a thought and let it go without adding judgment. Through this practice, you are freed from the habit of automatically judging things. You will experientially understand that Labels of good and evil are illusions created by yourself. This will mitigate your emotional reaction when facing a clash of values. 2. Practice dialogue focused on motivation. Concrete method when you face a difference of opinion with someone. Focus on the motivation, the heart. Why does the other person think that way? Rather than the superficial conclusion of the argument. Strive to ask questions that elicit the other person's background, such as, what kind of experience led you to that conclusion? Affect when you see the motivation the other person's suffering, or wish their superficial opinion ceases to feel like absolute evil. The judgment of good and evil shifts to the purity of the motive. Creating room for empathy. 3. The habit of looking into the mirror of impermanence. Concrete method. Ask yourself this question about a value you currently believe in strongly as right. Will I truly feel the same way about this in 5 or 10 years? Then, calmly reflect on a time when a rightness held by your past self turned out to be wrong later. For instance, a fashion trend that seemed absolute in your school days, or a way of working. Affect this gives you the deep insight that your own rightness is also impermanent and a temporary, changing phenomenon. This fosters a flexible attitude of acceptance toward others' differing values and helps attachment to dissipate. 4. The sowing seeds of compassion journal. Concrete method before going to sleep each night. Write down just one small altruistic act you performed that day. This doesn't have to be a major act, like giving up your seat on the train, but can be an action based on the pure intention to alleviate the suffering of others in your heart, such as listening to an angry colleague without interrupting until they finished. Affect in Buddhism. True good is defined by a compassionate motivation. This journal is a practice of shining a light on your inner goodness, detached from external evaluations of good and evil, thereby nurturing self-affirmation and mental stillness. Through these practices, you will no longer be tossed about by the waves in the sea of conflicting values. Instead, you will be able to maintain peace of mind aboard the unwavering ship of compassion. Through this video, we have cast the light of Buddhist wisdom upon the most profound struggle in modern society, the divergence of personal and cultural values of good and evil. The most powerful teaching we have learned is that true good is not measured by external norms or other people's approval, but lies in the pure intention of your inner heart of compassion. The labels of good and evil are temporary phenomena arising from dependent origination, and they lack absolute substance because of emptiness. Therefore, we must move away from clinging to and fighting over rightness. We need only approach the person in front of us and the situation at hand with the heart of loving kindness, seeking to alleviate suffering. As the story of Aakash taught us, this inner peace and the practice of compassion will lighten your mental burdens and transform your relationships and your life into something calm and rich. Every clash of values you face is simply an opportunity to practice compassion. Starting today, I encourage you to take the courageous step of letting go of your own rightness, I sincerely hope that your heart will be filled with a gentle light and become a lighthouse that illuminates those around you. May you live this day and every day with peace of mind. Namaste. If this story resonated with you and provided some insights or learning, I'd be delighted if you could press the like button. Also, if you subscribe to the channel, I'll be able to continue sharing various life wisdom and lessons with you. Please share your experiences and thoughts in the comments section as well. Each person's experience becomes valuable learning for other viewers. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end today. I look forward to meeting you all again in the next video.